Cole Adams of the greatest ball-knowing person on X to ever exist has joined Locked On Big 12 to talk whether or not the SEC is overrated and the Big 12 is not getting enough flowers. Cole, I'll leave it right there. Not much else to cue you up. Is the SEC a little bit worse than the national media would like you to think right now?
Yeah, I would definitely say like the bottom half of the SEC is not that great. And I think that they definitely were overhyped kind of all year. Probably because people were saying, one, it'd be harder to win the SEC tournament than a national championship, which I just think is the craziest statement of all time. And I feel like they were definitely a little overhyped this season. And in fact, we see that with college basketball sometimes where narratives just completely flip once the month of March hits. For example, people being like, Duke and Auburn are the two best teams in college basketball. And then watching Florida like go on a run in the SEC tournament, win the SEC tournament. And then it's like, well, maybe Florida's the best team in college basketball. So things can flip on a dime in this month. I would definitely say they were pretty overhyped. I think that there's a pretty equal playing field. In fact, I feel like I kind of have a diverse like Final Four when it comes to conference wise. So I'm not like, I wasn't like blown away by the SEC. I think the top teams are really good. Auburn, obviously, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee. But like, I feel like there's kind of a drop off when it comes to the rest of the schools.
Oklahoma and Texas sitting in conference play at 6 and 12, each got into March Madness. How did we let a 6 and 12 team into the dance? That's something that's so foreign to me.
Yeah, that definitely was kind of surprising seeing it, especially both of those not even being like in the first four potentially.
Yeah.
Well, Texas, but like Oklahoma too. I feel like maybe even they should have been maybe a 10 seed. It is kind of funny watching Oklahoma be, they're actually a 9 seed, and then Vanderbilt, who is ahead of them in the conference, is a 10 seed. Yeah. I feel like the bracketing was very weird this year, which is the part of the frustration I would even have for, we'll get into West Virginia potentially, but it's just like the bracketing was really kind of off this year. There's a lot of very questionable things about everything.
For Texas, and for me, the Longhorns, I just wasn't buying most of that this year. Now being a Big 12 guy, it's kind of my job is to not buy Texas since they left. Do you think either of these schools, namely the Longhorns, can make a run in March?
I don't necessarily think they can. I'm not buying Oklahoma beating Connecticut. And I'm definitely not buying even Texas potentially winning the first four. I've got Xavier winning that game. Xavier, their fans, Xavier plays about like 50 minutes from UD, University of Dayton. So I think that they'll be loud and proud there. So I think I don't even think they're going to win that matchup. So yeah, I'm not really buying that.
That's a fun aside here. Are you going to any of these first four games?
I will probably be going to the Xavier game. I'm not going tonight as we're recording this. North Carolina plays San Diego State tonight, so I'm not going to be going to that one. But, yeah.
These Auburn Tigers and even Tennessee or Alabama, we talk a lot about the top end of the SEC. Do you think those are the teams that we'll see in the Final Four? That we'll see we'll see multiple teams, I should say, from the SEC in San Antonio? Yeah,
I think that. I mean, I'm going to be somebody that still rides with Auburn. I know that a lot of people are jumping off that ship, but you know, I'll sink with it. We'll ride it out. That's just like my personal take. I do believe that Houston would probably be the team that comes out of their region. I think Florida is playing extremely well right now, so I think just probably 2. I know people were thinking maybe 3, but I'm just probably going to stick with 2 of the SEC schools. But again, like I said, I don't necessarily believe like the lower half of the SEC is as crazy as it was hyped up to be. And I know there's a lot of issues that with football, obviously, when it comes to the SEC machine, you know, which seeps into basketball, which really frustrates me because, you know, things are changing so much in college athletics in the 2020s that people are starting to get a little frustrated with how things are covered for sure.
For the Big 12, do you really believe, and I know you mentioned earlier the league's a bit down, do you believe that this could be the point where the league's no longer number one perennially in college basketball and that the SEC, the Big Ten, somebody else is actively overtaking them long term?
I feel like it's just them in the Big East that are kind of battling it out. We need to see an SEC national champion. You know, they've got to like actually get the job done. especially as of recently, I can't even really remember the last time an SEC school won nationally. Was it Kentucky in 2012? Maybe.
May have been, yeah.
So I think that like they have to prove it. Would this be the year? Potentially. But I do think that it's very overblown, the whole, this is the new basketball conference. The past two national champions came out of the Big East.
Yeah.
Past two before that were out of the Big 12. I think those are still the two top conferences in basketball. I think this would probably be the tournament where the SEC does they have to get a national champion this year. I believe. I think this would, because it was just so hyped up, all season. I feel like the SEC was just shoved down everybody's throat when it comes to, hey, this is the best conference. Well, it's March. You have to go and prove it. So this would be the season for them to, I don't necessarily think, again, like I said, taking over as the top conference, I still think that's the Big 12 and the Big East.
I am very interested in how the national coverage, as you've already kind of mentioned, the national coverage of the SEC has been so skewed toward them. ESPN has a vested interest. They want the SEC to succeed as much as possible because they will in turn make money. Do you think there's some sort of national narrative that helped force the SEC to so many people's households as this great conference that's so good, and they need 14 bids in the tournament? And that's kind of why we're looking at this. Maybe it's national media pushed.
Yeah, and that's where like the bracketing is getting very questionable, because obviously if they're going off like what bracketologists say, because there's a lot of great coverage on Twitter, and if they're going off like the metrics that they're using, whether that's the net, whether that's certain analytical websites, there should have been teams that should have made the tournament over some SEC schools that made the NCAA tournament. I get frustrated with football, obviously, because it's such a problem in football. I hate seeing it seep into basketball, because basketball is my favorite sport when it comes to the two, college football and college basketball. Because I'm a huge mid-major fan. I grew up loving mid-major basketball, so I get frustrated when it comes to maybe they break off and they form a super conference and then make a tournament out of that. It's like, I want equal balance amongst the United States. I want everybody to have a fair assessment. I don't necessarily love where things are trending. And obviously you've noticed it's a problem. People online have noticed it's a problem, especially seeing, like I said, man, it's like two national champions come out of the Big 12 in the past 4 years. So
yeah, I'm not privy to the SEC right now as a Big 12 fan, especially after the loss of Texas and Oklahoma. It's something that I think a lot of Big 12 fans agree on. It's just when you shove the narrative in everyone's faces that this league is the best no matter what, it gets stale quickly. That is the case to me. Coming up, Houston, West Virginia, disrespect. The BYU, is the Big 12 really down, or did it just not get the respect it deserved with some of the seeding and some of the matchups? This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Whoa, Cole's coming right back, I promise you. But today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. I mentioned it. Look, I'm 24. I don't do the whole money thing. I'm not great with it. So Monarch Money has been huge for me. If you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did my money go? Dining out, online shopping, entertainment. Right now, I just bought a house and I just got to buy this, I got to buy that. Monarch Money keeps all of my stuff, like my personal CFO, all my stuff budgeted. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, spending in one place. Your one-stop shop for managing money and starting to build wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized how much I was spending on food delivery, and now I don't. Instead of juggling multiple apps, use Monarch to check your finances, track spending. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever, as well as you can track and share personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off of your first year with Monarch Money.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.